We should be live now.
And we're live?
Yes,
And we're live.
we're live.
Welcome to the Art Agents Pod 26. Today we have the marvelous, the fascinating Marshall Vandruff. It's a Cade Miele-Felcher from me, from the Virginians,
Howdy.
from Marshall.
Season's greetings.
Season's greetings from Marshall. Marshall, it's great to have you on the podcast. I'll try not to speak as much as I usually do because the Virginians have great questions. And we're going to talk about Mastery by George Leonard today and other things as well. We're going to talk about conventions. There's the book.
I got it right
and,
here.
And Marshall just showed us.
Whoa!
I shamefully don't have mine with me because what I do, and this is, I'm gonna big note myself. When I have a great book, I pass it on. I pass it on to someone else. Otherwise, these shelves would just be falling down.
Yeah.
I keep the best ones for myself, but no, it's not true. But I pass on, books that I feel I have it now. And then today I realized that there was a whole chapter I forgot. So we'll talk about that chapter. Would be a great reminder for me. But I'm going to step back a little bit and let Marshall and the Virginians have a chat about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to have you here, Marshall, and I'm excited to talk about this book, Mastery.
Can I ask you why you wanted to talk about this book for the podcast, Marshall?
Yes, you can. But it'll take me. This will be a speech.
Okay,
please.
That's what I'm here for.
3 or 4 minutes. It was in the 90s when I was teaching at Cal State Fullerton that I was going through an explanation that I go through a lot about how we do not grow in a straight line. It's not natural. It's always a kind of a wobble. And I made a big deal out of it. And a middle-aged student said, "You've read George Leonard's book, Mastery." I said, "No, I haven't." "Yes, you have." I said, "No, I haven't." He said, "Yes, you're teaching the same thing that's out of there." And I said, "Tell me more about this." So he brought the book to class the following week, and I took it home and read it. And it's a short read, 2.5 hours or so, 3 hours. And I thought, yeah, I'm saying the same thing he's saying to a good degree, but he's saying it better, more compassionately, more eloquently, more thoughtfully, based on he was much, much older man. I mean, I don't know how old he'd be now, but he might be 100 if he were to still be living. And I read it straight through again after I finished it. And I read it a couple times after that, including this week. And the thing I liked about it is that he put specifics on the things that get in the way of growth toward mastery, which he defined very well. It's when something that is difficult to do becomes easy or apparently easy because a person just has control over it. They can do what they want with it. I thought, okay, I'll go with that because that applies to all sorts of things. And the fact that he applied it to sports so much and that he is an Aikido a master meant that he was also informing it with a good deal of stuff, examples that I'm not that familiar with because I'm not an athlete. I don't follow sports, and I felt like it helped round me out. Now, that was the direct answer to your question of I hadn't read it in 20 years until this past week. And I wanted to revisit it because I felt that it has value for a lot of the questions that keep coming up over and over. George Leonard. And it's very important that it's George Leonard's book, Mastery, and that everybody knows that it's George Leonard. There are other books with the same name. The George Leonard one is the one I'm talking about.
Yes.
Marshall, we were talking about that just before the podcast. Let's make that a point because that other book is the polar opposite. That
It
other
is
author
a completely different vibe. And let's
It's
not
terrifying.
even give it a minute.
Don't-
Let's not even
Yep.
not 10 more seconds. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah, this book's about focusing on yourself and like building things up for yourself to become that thing that can be called a master at whatever it is.
Over a long period of time.
Over a long period of time. And yeah, in the chapter I think that like had the most impact on me reading through it is all the stuff working against that idea of mastery and like Like the part where he's talking about the obsessive was one that it's like sometimes you just want something so bad it's counterproductive, and the way he puts that into words like just made a lot of sense. I was like, oh, like so sometimes you gotta let go to get further, and that was a part of the book that I found the most impactful. You had some questions about that chapter, didn't you?
So, well, my questions were about a different chapter,
okay.
But we were talking about it a little bit before we started the podcast, and that was about America's war against mastery. And you said that you had some insights that you didn't realize had changed over time since the last time you read it.
It's not about the content, but let's back up on that obsessive thing.
Okay.
Patrick, what did you say just before we started? You mentioned about, for those who are not familiar with the book, I think I can do this in less than a minute. Mm-hmm. There are 3 enemies of mastery. One is the person who just drops out. It's too hard. They get bored quickly. The dabbler. I knew I wasn't that because I stick with things for many years. The other was the hacker. That's the person who gets good enough to say, I don't need to get any better than this. I'll just play tennis with the friends that aren't that good and we'll have fun. And I don't need to get that good at it. People are so obsessive. I knew I wasn't that. Then the third one was the obsessive, which is I got to get better at this. I got to get better at this. I got to get better at it. Why am I not getting better at this? And that tension creates it short circuits the ability for it to flow well. Those are 3 named enemies of mastery that we can elaborate on because everybody's got their own temptation toward it. And that the person who is on the path to mastery knows how to not be those people. Now, back to the question. Rachel, did you have a particular question? Was it about that chapter?
Well, it's just like everything I guess I'm trying to like still formulate what I'm talking about here. But everything in this chapter, it seems like today could be applied even strong. Like sometimes you read a book and then you read the book, 30 years after it came out, and it seems to apply more to that time period than it did when he wrote it. And so
yes,
and so I guess like I don't know what my question is. I guess
let's do this. Can you see the book Mastery?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And let's do this again. Give me just a moment here. Let's do that.
Nice.
So that if you're in doubt, which book? My Mastery, there should be no doubt.
Is that why you put that big red arrow there? Was it particularly that worry, Marshall?
Patrick, that is the reason. That is why I took the extra time out of my day to find that red arrow, to highlight that area, to make sure that everyone knows. But it's unbelievable how there will be people who will not notice, and they are people who are not masters of understanding. Yep. Okay, let's go to the next slide, which is to put the cover next to the table of contents, because this table of contents is, I'm big on getting a book and not just reading the inside flap and the back, but also reading the table of contents. And I have been known to take a week or more with some of those Time Life 1960s books that were so great, those nature books, and not read the book for a few weeks, but because I read the table of contents and I think about them, because what they do is they stimulate your imagination for what is going to be in this book, which may make the book a disappointment. But if it doesn't make the book a disappointment, it means that the book is going to be really good because you've already been thinking it through. So here is
Marshall, that's amazing just on that point, because before you came on, we were just talking about how we didn't talk about the internet, but basically the internet can make you dumber rather than smarter, because people aren't using their metacognition anymore. They're not thinking about thinking, and you're just thinking about thinking before you even open the book.
Yeah, he's getting into the meta of the book, like before you even...
That's amazing stimuli. And you've also unleashed something in me too, because I I do the same thing when I get a book, like when I was a kid, a Marvel omnibus or something, all the best of Spider-Man or whatever. Just read, look at the front and the back, and sniff the pages and stuff. It's the whole sensory production of the book, even before you look at the book. That's the love of books, Marshall, right there.
It
But
is. I do it because it's fun. And
yeah,
there's another interesting thing about it is that you can tell often whether a book is worth reading by
yeah,
whether it is a thoughtful macro design. If that table
yeah.
of contents goes somewhere where they've spent time with it. In fact, Ben Eblin and Christian Nee, who I saw in person a month or so ago, were really excited about a book called Write Useful Books,
Oh,
which I have not read, but they were really excited about it. I asked for a synopsis of it, and Ben gave me a good minute or two synopsis of the book. Uh, and part of it was your table of contents. The title and your table of contents have got to meet a need. And I thought, okay, yeah, you don't need to convince me of that. When I look at this table of contents and I see it's divided into three parts,
Mm-hmm.
the master journey, that's the big view of it. And then the five master keys. Here's some specific things that will help you on that journey. And actually, those are great big abstract ideas: instruction, practice, surrender, intentionality. Then tools for mastery, and it gets more specific, and then ends up with packing for the journey, which is kind of a review of the book, and the master and the fool, which is a wonderful paradox that to do
hmm.
anything well, we've got to choose to do the thing that you mentioned before we went on here: surrender, to be the kid, to be the idiot, to be the person who can't do it and acknowledges that they can't do it, and no posturing that can get in the way. So I loved this table of contents, and that was back at a time when I didn't spend that much time with table of contents. But let's get back to what
This,
Rachel brought
yeah,
up.
this is a great table of contents. It's a very like Eastern kind of philosophy. Just like digging, just looking at the pace of what how he lays it all out. Here is the problem. Here is like, how to identify the issue, and then how to identify the solution to the issue, and then identifying that the issue can be solved, and then packing you along on your journey, and how you that's a very Eastern philosophy idea, and I love it when people tie together a bunch of different ideas like that, and they make it like, except like I can sit down and read it and understand it. I love it. Yeah, this is great. Thank you for making this.
Well, the putting early in the book, I put them in the order of the dabbler, the hacker, and the obsessive. And the reason why is because the obsessive was the climactic one for me. It's like
Yeah.
you are this person. I've never gotten over it, and there are positive sides to it too. But
Yes.
he's starting the book with, "Do you have an itch to scratch?" I think I do. That's why I'm reading this book. Let's be specific about with the itch. Oh, wow. How did you know about what goes on in my life? So this is immediately creating tension in me, the reader, that I need this. And then he digs it in. This is a book that was written over 30 years ago, I'm sure. It was relevant at that time. And as Rachel hinted, it's more relevant, but there are a couple things that bug me about this chapter.
Yeah.
What bugs you about that chapter?
Yeah. I want to
One
ask
is
that.
one is something that nobody in the US thought about, or take it back. Some people did. There were people with global mindsets and international awareness that when I started teaching online in 2010 for TAD, and I started having an international audience, and people have brought it up over and over. When you say America, do you recognize that you're including Mexico, and you're including Brazil and Ecuador and Venezuela and all of these other countries, and that we are the Americas, and that America is not just the US? And I started to realize, yeah, I didn't think about
It's a
that. And
mindset.
it is a mindset of U.S. centrality, that when we say America, we mean here, the U.S., not the other Americas. And that was something that I think writers today would be more sensitive to, because we've got an audience and we've got a community of people all over. And when you start to find out more about the community, you start to find out how your terminology has got some warp to it. But that didn't bother me because he didn't know any better.
Yeah.
There was,
Could I just chime in there, Marshall?
yeah, please do.
Because we were talking earlier, I don't remember that chapter because it wasn't so relevant to me because I wasn't living in America. And so it phased. You could move that apostrophe over to after the S, and then you'd get it right. But we do. When I think about America, I think of the USA. When I think of the Americas, I think of the entire continents. But that didn't resonate with me at all. I actually thought that was an added chapter because of the way the world has turned out today. I didn't. I thought this was a reissue of the book with an extra chapter in it. I do not recall that chapter. But is this the chapter that made you grouchy? You were saying about you had a grouchiness.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
is it this one? Yeah.
Oh,
I'd like to hear about that.
This chapter would have been in the old book.
Yeah.
This was a pre-internet book. Here's what I didn't like about it, is that it is a gripe about modern culture that I do not disagree with. In fact, it is worse now than it was. I have believed since I was in my early 20s that the current mainstream culture is at war with anyone who wants to be great at what they do. And I can go on for hours about it. And it has been one of the greatest sources of social trouble in my life, that when I wanted to go into the arts and make my living at the arts and do something well, you are not going to be appreciated by family and friends and culture and how you spend your time and what you do on Friday and Saturday nights and all of the other stuff. And I got grouchy about it. So when I am exposed to someone else who's grouchy about it, I feel like I don't want to be grouchy about it anymore.
Yeah.
And the way I deal with it now is to gently remind my students that if you decide you want to be the best artist, the best storyteller, the best writer, the best creative you can be prepared. There will be a social price to pay, and there will be difficulties because you are not in a stream that is going your way. You're in a river that's going the other way. And I try to keep it minimal, but I don't need to do that much of it at this point. And let me explain why. I teach a class on Saturday that is 6.5 hours, where we are in a room, and these students come to this dumpy room on California Saturdays, and they stick around for 6.5 hours, where we look at the work that they've devoted themselves to throughout the week. We watch great movies, we talk about them, and I am having students that are taking a full 2-year circuit of Saturdays with me. So I don't have any reason to be cranky in the presence of talented, committed students who have spent their week working on projects that put them in the minority for how people spend their weeks and their Saturdays. And the whole thrust of this series of classes is to come up with ideas for projects that students would want to work on if they weren't going to school, and preparing those ideas as if they were going to pitch them to investors with the hope of creating good visual stories. Lots of young people want to do this. Some take it seriously, like these students. They are people who are not bowing to the culture. They're doing something that is quite statistically impossible to try to go into the arts for a career, but they are coming together and doing a countercultural thing. So what is the point of preaching to them? And that was what made me grumpy, is that I had forgotten how grumpy George is in this chapter.
Yeah, he uses a lot
I don't want to
strong
argue
language.
with him. But look what he did. As soon as he introduced the problem, he dug it in. That if you're going to be a consumer, you're going to watch TV, you're going to keep up with what's current. And there's even an irony there. Some students who keep up with what's current have better careers because they are so in touch with the pulse of their culture that people who bowed out of the culture like me are not in touch with. But look where he goes. In this negative chapter, he then switches it around and says, here's what you learn to love.
Nice.
Simple things. Quiet,
And-
calm, simple plateau.
And the work where you are not getting better, that I've been at this for 6 months. I've been working on this thing for a month. Why am I getting worse? Accept it and love it and keep it that. And year after year, the growth will happen without you sweating over, I'm not getting better. In fact, my analogy that he did not use, but I adopted this one many years ago, is that, can you imagine every child wants to be a grown-up because they want the privileges, they want the physical strength, they want all the other stuff. But can you imagine how you could ruin childhood by, I'm not a grown-up yet. You gotta eat, and I'll eat all my meals this week. I'll eat 100 meals if I can be a grown-up. No, that's not the way it works. It's better to just enjoy the meals, and grown-upness will happen, and will happen better if you're not gritting your teeth and grinding down trying to be a grown-up so hard. It's really very much about loving the experience that is not the quick spurt of growth.
Do you remember, Marshall, the time you became a grown-up? What age you were? When something switched and changed and you no longer had that childhood innocence. Do you remember that, what age you were?
Yeah, but I probably better not mention all of those things.
45 years old.
Yeah, or it'll happen in this coming year.
Yeah.
I think that it was different. It was different for career. It was different for relationships, and it was different for different kinds of relationships. It was different for being a teacher who's responsible versus one who's irresponsible. It was different for all sorts of different with money. So there were so many gradations, and I don't want to pretend that I have fully adulted. I feel, in fact, when he mentioned this about one characteristic of people on the path of mastery is that they are aware of their deficiencies and learn to figure, those will be taken care of. But no, I could mention some specific instances, but some of them were so painful that they aren't things that I really particularly want to talk about right now. Humiliation is always a big one for having to grow up. Humiliation in front of everybody else is a really rough one. Mm-hmm. I think most people would have to point to their humiliations about growing up, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I feel less humiliated about anything today. I get a false splat in my face in the middle of a crowd now and just get back up again. So for some reason that means more when you're younger, doesn't it? That seems to mean more. And then when you get older, you realize everyone falls in their face. It's a different thing. But I remember being 13 and going, oh, something just changed, And before 13, I was the happiest kid in the world. And after 13, those teenage years were rough, They were tough. And that's why when I embedded into the bunker and started to learn mastery, how to draw, and was looked on like an oddball. That's why I've got a great affinity with the oddballs. I walked into class once and I said to the class, because my computer wasn't working, I said, no, I know this class very well. I says, you guys are all nerds. Can someone fix this computer? And they all burst out laughing. And then the tone just died and one said, we're not nerds. I says, oh, sorry, I thought we were good friends. He says, no, we're geeks. They were proud of that. Do you guys know the difference between nerds and geeks?
I think they're interchangeable.
I don't know the difference. What is the difference?
I think a geek knows about things and a nerd just is clumsy and silly.
Yeah. Maybe nerd is like more derogatory. I don't know.
I went for a joke and insulted them instead, but I found out that a geek, I think I'm a geek too then. I think I'm a nerd and a geek. I think we all are. I think that's what artists are. So when Marshall said they're oddball, we can only wish for that. When artists are deemed oddballs, I think they're the savior of humanity, because creative thinking is the highest level of thinking. You're inventing new ideas, aren't you? And that's what nerds and geeks do. And that's a bit what we're talking about here with mastery. With the lowest level of thinking is just regurgitating effect, whereas mastery teaches us how to think and invent new ideas. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but I'm curious about this 13-bit. Now, you were in your audience maybe knows this. You were in Ireland during the Troubles,
During the Troubles, yeah.
and
They were
they all.
terrible.
Does your audience know what that means?
I would doubt very much. And I'm happy that they probably wouldn't. But yeah, it was basically just a civil war. And even that was a euphemism. I don't want to go, like you were saying, Marshall, I don't want to go into the depth of it because it's too depressing. But basically, it was just gunfire on the streets, just constantly. And we were in the epicenter of it, a place called Ardoyne, where everything just kicked off. We were on the news all the time, even our street. I said before, Marshall, when we were talking off camera, I said to my dad once, Dad, why are we on American television? I mean, like our street, with our house in the background. He says we live in a terrible place, and I didn't realize that because you're a kid. So my childhood was still fun. You know, people were really nice. Even when the gunfire was going off, I remember waking up every morning after a terrible gunfight and would actually find joy in walking through the empty streets and finding the bullet casings and especially the rubber bullets that the army had fired because you could play with them. You know, you could throw them and they would bounce. They were they were about that size, big rubber bullets. And we would collect them. I had a collection of about 50. And we used to throw them at each other. So we found fun in anything because we were just children and we were immortal. We didn't know that there was any danger to us. But it wasn't that changed me. It was 13. And this girl walked past it. I used to pull her hair and stuff. And she walked past one day and she was no longer a girl. And I went, oh dear, something's different now. And I was never the same again. And for the next 10 years, I was this awkward fool. Before that, I was totally confident. So that's when I retreated into my comic books and drawings because I just couldn't handle that change. I couldn't do it. It took me to my 20s before I could come out of the bunker again. They were good years. So that was just my question on when did you feel that you were ready for this book? That's when I was ready for this book.
Yeah, the best I can remember to recount something positive was something that I've kept in my mind all along. That when I was 11 years old, I felt
11.
like I was smart enough to understand just about anything. I wasn't, but I felt really excited that I understood things. And I remember by the time my son was 11, he could understand anything. And so I've got this idealized view that 11 years old is where you say, I'm ready for the world. It'll be knocked back because 11 years old is, in many environments, still a protected child.
I think most artists become totally obsessive at 13. That's what I'm finding with most artists that I talk to. From 13 onwards, you just got this sponge brain that just takes it all in. And I mean, I think you guys were robbed by the internet because it's such a distraction. Where I was totally undistracted, just drawing all the time, just never endless fun with a pencil.
Wow.
And that's another thing we could talk about because me and Marshall are from the same generation, and Rachel and Melanie are from this other generation, which is totally distracted. Unless I'm just poking my head in and feeling that's the way it is. But
No, the
I'm
kids are
distracted.
definitely different.
It's gotten a lot worse, yeah.
Like, I had a smartphone after I got out of high school, so everyone younger than me probably had smartphones younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say it's definitely having an effect. And they're doing studies now on, like, focus and people's ability to, like, think.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're scrolling online, it's like your brain is a muscle. You can train it just like anything else to do whatever you want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're training it to just scroll,
You're intaking like 6 seconds of information at a time.
yeah, and the way
You
like
can't
focus works, is like, and drawing teaches you this. Like, if some people think focus, they take medications so they can like focus harder, focus. But it's like you're looking at like, oh, the shape of this and the way the light hits it and the, you know, what kind of texture is it, you know, what kind of like, how am I going to compose it into it? You start thinking about it. It's like your mind like opens a file cabinet and starts fill out like, what else does this relate to that I could add to it? And then you go further and further and further down that road. So you can train your brain to focus that way, or you can sit there just scroll to a new thing every time too. So it's like there's, something violent, and then there's something else, and there's something else, there's something else, and you just keep scrolling to random stuff.
And there's no like neural connections. It's all like separate. And
yeah, and so I would say in that way it has affected people's ability to sit down and like be able to focus on things. But you can get out of that if you just like sit down and start practicing it, and then it has all kinds of benefits.
That's the question I was going to ask you. So you've identified the problem, which is critical thinking, and you found a solution for it. You've been able to break it, or do you just keep on like an addict? You keep on going back to that scrolling again, or have you managed to break it like a week off, or is it just a couple of hours you'll draw and then you'll be back scrolling again? Have you managed to kill that habit?
I mean, I don't know, I have a timer on it now, like no more than 10 minutes.
Have you? That's an
Yeah.
answer.
I'm like, you gotta have some kind of discipline about it, whatever that means to you. I would say there's a lot of people where it's like hours of their day now. Like if you look at the time, like I was surprised, a year ago I thought I was spending so much time. It's like you look and it's like an hour of your day every day, 2 hours of your day, and so you just cut that down. And yeah, I think that's a really good solution. Also, filling your day with things that are better, whether it's drawing or some kind of other passion or something or craft or whatever. Something that's not a video game too, like something that has real world like rewards, like something you can be proud of when you're done. Yeah, that's how I think about it. And I've always like just loved sitting down and drawing too. Like I've always had that. I guess that kind of against everything else going on in the culture, that always prevailed a little bit higher. I would like to think, and yeah, it kept me on track. So
excellent.
And I do have one question about this obsessive thing. So how do you define the difference between having a passion and an obsession? Because those are two words that I get
that's a great
conflated.
question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Marshall.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure, because I'm afflicted. I was always passionate from the time I was a kid, and I still feel passionate. I don't feel unmotivated. I feel like there's not enough years to do the things you want to do. But the obsession thing, passion is generally not an insult that somebody's passionate. Obsession means that they're gritted down on it. They're gripping it. If you've ever seen we saw a lion do this once, where it had a bone or something, and it started, and the trainer said, "It's obsessed right now. I've got to distract it because it's dangerous when it's obsessed like that." But it's that gripping down. In fact, in therapy, they call it obsession compulsion. Obsession is the passionate part. Compulsion is the I have to, and it's the tight grip, as I understand it. And obsession actually can be a really good thing for everybody around if the person is obsessed with getting something done well. I do not see obsession, the word itself, as necessarily bad, but it can create trouble. You block out everything else. Don't you want to block out everything else to concentrate? You're focused on this one goal. Don't you want to focus on this one goal at the expense of others so that you can get it done? You care deeply about quality. Don't you want to? And so on. But it is the next word that therapists put on it, compulsion, that I have to. And the fact is, you don't have to. And I would balance this book out with more recent research that has been wonderfully compiled in Dr. Eddie O'Connor's course for the great courses, which I talk about all the time, and I don't have a placard ready for it. I might have a placard ready for it, but it would take me a minute to find it. Can you give me a moment to stop?
Sure.
Fill in the this is what the danger of radio is, that it goes silent and keep
radio silence. But we got beautiful countenances here, lovely faces to look at. And that's one of my obsessions, is people watching. Does that still happen? I go out and sit in a cafe with coffee and I just watch people go past and I go, there's a character. There's another character. I wonder what they're thinking. Do you guys still do that?
Yeah,
Oh
I
Like you're
think
not on the
people
phone.
are so interesting, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why figure drawing is interesting because it's a study of people, and
Yeah.
I like learning about like psychology and
Mm-hmm.
personalities and stuff like that, and I think that's also very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like yeah, like you just see him walking by, and you're like, I wonder what he's got going on, you know. Sometimes it's
What he's
better
got
not
going.
knowing. Sometimes you don't want to know.
There's so many
Sometimes,
different kinds of people
yes.
doing all kinds of different things, and raising
Yeah.
miniature donkeys, doing all that kind of stuff.
Miniature donkeys. And
Yeah, the
that's where
miniature.
my love affair with America is mostly that. Because the array of characters in America, I've never seen such an array. If you come to Australia and you walked onto a beach, it's the same character walking past. No, there's different shapes in the characters, but they're all wearing shorts and t-shirts. So it's a character that's a different shape and a bit older, a bit younger, but they're all wearing shorts and t-shirts. But when I go to America and I see Norman Rockwell characters and I see Amish people in a buggy go past, it's just the array of characters. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
And the beards and the mustaches with wax on them, it's just amazing. I love going to America. I'm never on the phone in America. That was why I wanted to ask that question. How much distraction can you take and still be an artist in your
Yeah.
generation? What generation are you guys? Is it X?
I think we are the youngest of the millennials.
Yeah,
What,
I'm the
The
last one.
millennials?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
94 and then 97,
Six,
6. Yeah. So, yeah. And then I guess Gen Z starts right after that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was before millennials? What was
Gen
that?
X.
Gen
My
X, yeah.
father.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest of the boomers, and it's so close to the Generation X that George Clooney said it. He says, I think it was George Clooney, says just by coincidence. He wants that little gap to be called the Jones generation. The Jones generation
Why is that?
because they're too
What does
they're
that
too
mean?
young. They're too young to be boomers and and too old to be Generation X, but they feel that they're too young to be boomers because there was only a couple of years left and they were in it. And I'm in that gap too. And it's called the Jones generation because people in that generation now don't feel that they're old. And I don't. And so I'm happy to embrace that. I'm in the Jones generation. I'm going to grab onto that. You can
Yeah.
come along too, Marshall, if you like. If
Okay,
you
yeah,
want to be in
well,
the Jones.
thanks.
Yeah.
Let me do this portion of screen.
Psychology of performance.
Yes, this is a course that meant a great deal to me 6 years ago when Stan
Eddie
and I were going to
O'Connor.
start a podcast. I want to talk about it because this course, which is by Dr. Eddie O'Connor, which I talked about to the point of obsession on Draftsman, and even got him as a guest to where he came on to the podcast to talk with us.
Oh, wow.
And it's true to its claim is that how to be the best in life, and it's particularly about performance, and it's not about physical performance. It's about that the mind has a lot to do with performing, and he is a sports psychologist who helps athletes to get their minds in shape to do the best they can do. And he talks a little bit about the history of it. It's got an over 100-year history. We're researching how come some people ride a bike better. It's not just their bodies, it's their attitude. And he gets into the same kind of things that everybody gets into, the deliberate practice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But
The mindfulness.
lots of ironies when positive thinking doesn't work. Confidence and self-talk, what you find out is that confidence is not necessarily a good thing. Confidence can make you an idiot, and there's two sides to it. Confidence can help. Confidence can damage performance. A lack of confidence can damage performance. A lack of confidence can improve performance. He is referring specifically to research that shows what has been discovered about it. Developing for every one of these chapters was just great, and all of them were surprising. But it was this chapter called "How to Be No, even the one about how to be a great sport parent, which I am not, I just thought was marvelous. I read it several times. I want to find the one on how to be the perfect perfectionist. Do you see it up here? And I'm
15.
missing it.
15.
15? Oh, being the perfect perfectionist. Here is one takeaway of it. Perfectionists suffer.
They do.
But perfectionists often do better work than everybody else because they are willing to suffer. Now, there's much more to it than that, but think about Walt Disney and think about Kubrick and think about one after another of some of the greatest achievers, innovators in their genre, people whose work endures, and you will find that they had a vision for what it could be that meant a lot of work that other people are not willing to do. And it is not bad to be a perfectionist, but there is a price to pay. And one of the prices is that you will go through more pain than if you say it's okay. So I am not big on stereotyping the perfectionist as negative. And I see a lot of it happening from people who just do slovenly work. I say, well, at least I'm not a perfectionist. There's got to be some balance in there.
Yeah.
And I think that perfectionism at its worst hamstrings the ability to grow.
Yeah.
In training in particular, a lot of training is to learn to throw it away and not be a perfectionist until a gentle grip on making it better becomes not a clenched grip, but a strong enough grip to let it go. And here's the last thing I would say about it, because it's been going on for a long time here. In response to this business of the danger of obsession, and obsession is a negative thing, that a great perfectionist, a successful perfectionist, the kind of a perfectionist we want to be, is the kind that has built into their process the embracement of failure. The
100%.
embracement of it's not working well and saying that's okay. It's one reason why some people, some personality types become writers as opposed to live performers. Do a live performance, and the pain when you do it badly is a pain that can cure you of being a live performer. But a writer, and you hear it from some of those little snippets from the masterclass of great writers talking about it, you can fall flat on your face with writing. It doesn't hurt that much. Next day, you can look at it and say, that sucks. Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was William S. Burroughs had a quote that was something like, in order to do any good writing, you've got to do a lot of bad writing, incredibly bad writing.
Yeah.
And I didn't quote it exactly, but you got incredibly bad writing.
Incredibly is the word.
How could I be that bad a writer? And yet, we're talking about good writers who know that I have to do it imperfectly, and then it gradually grows. And then I say, ooh, well, that's good enough to meet my obsessive, compulsive, perfectionist standard, but I'd never get there if I was clinging to that too quickly.
I would say, Marshall, we don't see enough artists show their bad stuff. And I think that's what makes people feel so bad. I'm just writing a course or, drawing a course now. And I thought, draw some bad drawings, not deliberately, just I know they're going to be there. And I left them in. And then I'm looking at the screen going, if people could see how bad this was, is this going to ruin me? Or should I put it there? Because they need to see it's part of the process. This is the process. There's always going to be bad stuff. And I'm still struggling with whether I should leave it in. I even say in it, you probably think I'm the worst artist in the world with these drawings, but part of me is going, throw your ego away and show that you're always going to do bad drawings, no matter where you are. It's just part of the process. Should I leave it in? Or will it be the ruination of me?
I think it's one of the best things that can be done for students is to show that not just the teacher, but the greatest people you admire go through a similar thing. Oh, Saul Bass had a wonderful interview that Strathmore Paper did with him in the early 90s, I think it was. He was a great designer.
He was terrific.
he did bad work and acknowledged that there is an illusion when you do good work, that it came out good, and
Yeah.
that people who see it have no idea what went on behind this. You know the story about Michelangelo, don't you? That when he died,
Uh,
or when
he
he
burned,
had,
yeah.
yeah, well,
Antonio burned them all.
yeah, tell it as you remember it.
Yeah, what is it?
It's just when he was on his deathbed, he was. Imagine that's the last thing you're thinking of. Antonio burned all the drawings because he didn't
Burn them
want people
all.
to think that he was anything less than a genius. And if he saw the drawings, they would think, "Oh, he wasn't a genius after all." It was the kind of that sort of thing, wasn't it, Marshall? Or have you
Yeah,
got an actual
that's
thought?
exactly the way I heard it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
We got to
Antonio
see
kept
some of
them.
his drawings that somehow survived that. Like they made a note at the front of this gallery saying like he tried to destroy these, but and some of them survived, and now they're touring around and they're at the one of the colleges nearby. So we went and we saw some of those drawings from Michelangelo, and yeah, that was
Yeah,
kind of cool.
It was awesome.
Because it's
I
like
think we
I'm
should.
learning the same things that he was learning when he's figuring out the muscles and stuff. So I got to see those little drawings of
Yeah.
him figuring
Oh
stuff
yeah,
out.
yeah. Well, he was the first to really use that higher learning idea of writing notes on your drawings. And he wrote Eureka once on a drawing that showed the clavicle from the back. And it was like, it was a big moment for me because I went, there was a time when Michelangelo discovered you could see the clavicle peak from the back. And he wrote Eureka. And I went, wow, this is fantastic. Even he was learning. We just assumed that he just was great, which is weird. It's a weird idea. There's no such thing. He has to learn like the rest of us. But before I forget this thought, Marshall, because you were talking about confidence being destructive, if it's untethered, I think we're both film buffs. Have you, and by the way, when you said Saul Bass, I felt a kinship because I just love his design. I can still see his design on the beginning of movies. What was that one with the cat walks across the screen? Trying to remember what that was. Uh,
Was it the Pink Panther?
I think it might have been that heist one with Steve McQueen.
Oh no,
It was
yeah, yeah.
it was
I'm not
remade
familiar.
again. Yeah.
But
Trying to
he
remember
designed
what.
for those who don't know, he designed the AT&T logo, if I recall, which was those horizontal lines. He designed the Psycho. He storyboarded and designed that Psycho, famous scene in Hitchcock's Psycho. He had his hands in all sorts of things. He was a great creative of the mid 20th century.
Yeah, he was amazing. And it really made a difference that, like you said, with the book being so carefully put together, you knew it was going to be a great movie when a Saul Bass title came up. You went, oh, I'm in. But have you seen Megatropolis, Francis
I've
Ford?
been told not to see it.
Oh, what a disaster.
Oh
There's
no.
confidence untethered.
Yeah,
And he was so out of his depth, he didn't realize that the CGI was bad. He just
yeah.
didn't understand it. He thought it was good because to him it was amazing. Whereas any one of my, first year students could have done a better job. It was, Marshall, don't watch it. It honestly,
Rachel and Melanie, have you seen it?
No,
No.
don't
no.
look, don't look.
Okay.
It
Okay.
ruined his whole life. He's selling all his properties. He financed it himself. It was an absolute disaster.
That bad?
And an awful, awful. I don't even want to say it because I just admired him as an early creator of Apocalypse Now and
Yeah,
and The Godfather. It was just
yeah. Well,
atrocious.
he did the same thing with One from the Heart, and he ruined
I,
Zoetrope
I,
Studios. Yeah, he
I thought the
rebuilt
same
Las
thing.
Vegas essentially, and everybody told him not to, but
Yeah,
he couldn't keep from it. And yeah, yeah, Coppola is an interesting study and both cautionary,
he is.
both someone who you can learn from and also you can learn
Yeah,
negative lessons from.
he's an obsessive. Yeah, I remember that very movie, Marshall. I went to the movies to watch it because he was still riding high in my mind. Apocalypse Now, he's done another movie. I was the first in line at the cinema, the Ritzy in Brixton, London. I was first in line. And you have that rush, he's great, he's great. And so the first 10 minutes you're going, he's great, this is great. And then even with all of that wanting it to be great, you're going, this doesn't feel so great. And then you're halfway through it and you're going, this isn't great. And then by the end you went, ooh, that was awful. That was
Are you
horrific.
talking about One from the Heart?
One from the heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I never saw it. Yeah, and as I get older in particular, I cannot watch movies that I don't like.
Yeah.
There have been It's too much of a commitment. And there are so many movies that I like so much that I can watch them 30 and 40 times and never tire of
Yeah.
them.
For 15 minutes, Marshall, I can tell a bad movie. In fact, I can tell it by the titles. I go, I'm out. I say I'm out, you know? If there's a on-the-nose dialogue, I'm out right away. I'll just explain what we saw. That's ridiculous. I'm out right away. Spartacus. At the beginning,
the one that Kubrick had to take over.
that's right. So Kubrick took over it. If you watch that movie and you watch the first 10 minutes of it, you're going, okay, I'm all in. This is a great movie. It's old-fashioned, right? And it's wonderful in an old-fashioned way, and I love it. And then it just out of the blue turned into something even better. It went, this is incredible. And even as a kid, I couldn't understand why that switch from old-fashioned wonder became this incredible thing. It was because the director, who was a great director, Anthony Mann, I think it was kicked off the set, and Stanley Kubrick was brought in. And you could just tell it was just this greatness has evolved from this first, all great stuff as well. So you can really feel genius. You can really feel it in every fiber of that celluloid. I couldn't believe that as a kid I understood it. I didn't really understand, but I went, something just switched. So if you haven't seen Spartacus, my word.
Yeah, this is such boomer talk, Patrick.
It's boomer talk.
There are so few people that are under the age of, say, 40 or 50 that even knew that Kubrick had to take it over, and all sorts of inside jokes like Peter Sellers and all that stuff. Let's backtrack. Where were we? And should I put the slide back up?
Yes.
We do have some comments and stuff in the YouTube chat here. There was one. Have you ever heard of the book Atomic Habits? Have you read that one?
I'm living in Atomic Habits. I listened to it all the way through several times, and I'm listening to it again. It's my only listening for maybe another several months in my car. I think that James Clear did a superb book.
I haven't read that one in a while. That's the one where he talks about like toothpaste marketing in one of the chapters, though. Maybe.
Tell me about that. I haven't read this.
Don't remember.
Maybe not. Maybe that was a different book. What was in Atomic Habits?
Oh, Atomic Habits. He starts out by telling one of the most shocking and compelling stories right from the beginning about what happened to him when he was a teenager. And I'm not going to tell the story.
Okay.
But if you give him the introduction or the first chapter, and you are not moved, I can't imagine why you wouldn't be. And then he's going to talk about how his life changed because he discovered that the tiniest things done over and over and over make the hugest differences. And then he's regularly alluding to the research, and it's inspiring. I would synopsize it. I do synopsize it to students this way. Habits seem like the hardest thing in the world to change. When we try to change them, they seem impossible. The truth is, habits are the easiest thing in the world to change. If we don't try to change the habit, we change the infrastructure. We change the lifestyle. We change the direction. That is, if the obvious things are, if you're eating a lot of junk food, make it so it's really hard to get access to junk food. Do not buy junk food. It's a great book to read if you are moving and you're designing a new environment. He alludes to the heroin addiction and how heroin is not a habit, it's an addiction. It's an obsession compulsion that is physiological, and there's so many issues involved. People get on heroin, never get off it. They die from it typically. And when they go into rehab, they get off it. And then as soon as they go back to life, they get back on it. And he cited an instance where that didn't happen. And it was people who got addicted to heroin during the Vietnam War when they had access to it. And then when they came back to the States, they did not revert to the addiction because they had a whole different environment. There were other issues too, but when the environment changes, and he's very practical about it, make it obvious, make it appealing, make it rewarding, make it easy. and then to do the opposite, make it so that it's invisible, make it so that it's really difficult to do, make it so that it's unsatisfying, and make it, I'm my brain is scrambling on what the four things in reverse, but it is practical, it's inspiring, it works, and a number of people that are around me, including younger people who told me about it, it is a great self-help book. So that was my long answer to yes, I know about Atomic Habits, and I'm going to stay in it for another year or so.
You're just gonna keep rereading.
I will listen to that. I've stopped reading quite a bit because I've got limited time left. So I'm listening to books. Do you think listening to books is you get less out of the book than reading the book? I'm going to listen to Atomic Habits. Would I do better
I do
with
it both ways. There's
Yeah.
definitely advantages to reading it. I love reading, and I love going slowly, and I love taking a paragraph and then taking a break and come back reading the paragraph. But I also love being read to by a good reader.
Yeah, it
So
has to be
yeah,
a good
I
read.
wouldn't put one over the other, depending on the reader and depending on the kind of book. Some books are so dense that
Yeah.
you don't want somebody reading it to you because you're gonna have to just keep slowing it down, keep going back. So yeah, it depends.
Yeah. I just want to double my life span by listening to the book while I actually still draw. Get them both things done. So that's my attempt. That's my atomic habit can I call that an atomic habit?
Yeah.
Because it's speeding up at atomic speed. So because Amazon keeps saying you've got podcasts that you can listen to. So, hold on, a podcast and an audiobook are two different things, aren't they?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
The audiobook is thought out.
Yeah.
Podcast is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm gonna have to get the audiobook from somewhere else then.
And
I'll find it.
earlier you mentioned you give your books away. What are some of the books you've given away the most that you recommend to people?
I gave away a book just last week there.
Okay.
I give away, well, usually my books, if I've got it spare copies, because the
Okay.
publisher sends me 10.
One of your million
Uh,
books.
as, yeah,
However many books you've
That's-
published.
10. I've
10.
published 10 books. No, hold
Okay.
on, that seems contradictory. I've published 10 books. Well, my publishers published 10 of my books, 9 of them. But I get 10 copies of every book as part of the author's deal. And so those 10 books I usually give to the models that are in the book, but I'll also give them to friends as well.
Okay.
So I'll just give a foreign edition and of The Anatomy of Style, or drawing from photos. I'll give that away to a friend the other day. And also a little book that I bought what's it called? Morpho, I think it was.
What's
It's a
it
little
called?
You
thick
got
book.
those books.
I think it's called
The
Morpho.
tiny books, they'll have one about
The tiny
animals.
books, yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's like one about hands,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I bought one of those, and it's actually really great. But the problem with it is that I don't like the drawings. The information's really terrific, but I have to, like Marshall, it has to be beautiful. The
Yeah, I
drawings
do
have to be
those.
beautiful.
Yeah,
They,
yeah.
they can't just be diagrams. They have to be beautiful. And so I can only look at it once and pass it on. It's a great resource, but I can't look at those drawings. I can look at a Frank Frazetta drawing forever. In fact, see this little book here that I just got in the post the other day?
Roy Crinkle. Yes.
Frazetta? No.
Roy
Is
Crinkle.
that a
Yeah.
new book?
That's a brand new one, Marshall.
Oh,
Do you know Roy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never met him, and he was
Yeah.
before my time. But yeah, what great work.
He's a perfect example of the plateau. This book is so dense with his little drawings, and not one of them were paid drawings. They were all done for a fanzine called Alma. He did all of this for no money. There is a true believer in the process is the main idea rather than the end
Oh,
result.
well, he was 70s and 80s, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But he never sought fame, he never sought money. He just wanted to draw. He just loved the process. In fact, this isn't something that I would endorse, but he used to go to a great bookshop in New York. If you've never been to it, it's the biggest bookstore in the world, they say, but I think Foyles in London's bigger. I can't remember the name. Marshall,
Is it
are you
Harry
familiar?
Abrams? Harry
I'm not
Abrams?
sure. I'm not sure it's that one. Are you familiar with New York?
No, I've been there once, but no, I'm not.
All right. Well, there's a bookstore. It'll come to me later. But he used to go to that bookstore and he would steal two books. He would steal one to read and another to keep pristine on his bookshelf. And that's how he had no money. So he would go there on the weekend and steal two books in his coat across Central Park, and that would be his book collection. Apparently, he had a gigantic book collection. So,
Oh man,
he was very good at stealing books. But boy, could he draw. Roy, I thoroughly recommend that little book.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Fantastic Art of Roy Crinkle. Super. That's my.
Hey,
that's my.
let's go back to the person who asked about Atomic Habits, because I'm not seeing the questions. Was there anything that they mentioned other than just asking if I was familiar with it?
It said it helped them, and then they asked if you'd heard about it. That was all the question.
I haven't known anyone who didn't respond positively to it.
Yeah.
It is quite a
I gotta look back
motivating
at
book.
that one. I think I flipped through it. Maybe it just wasn't the right time in my life, and I don't think much of it stuck with me. So I'll have to go over it again. But yeah, that's a great one. And I'm gonna look up that Eddie O'Connor, Psychology of Performance too. That seems incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a look at that.
Yeah. Are there any other books, Marshall, to you that have impacted you? Like, what are like some of the most impactful books you've read over your life? You've read a lot. Like some of the ones that maybe hit you the best, like hit you just right, or ones that you would recommend the most, or had the most impact on you.
We would be here for hours, and
Okay,
I talked about so many of them on Draftsman. In fact, we did one in 2021, or maybe it's 2020. Stan and I did a Draftsman podcast on our favorite books, in which I had a number of them right there on the shelf next to me. Let me see if I've got access to the link to that podcast. But when you publish this, you can edit it and put stuff in there that. Give me a moment. Let me see if I can find that. I do have a link to the Draftsman podcast that included our favorite books. Do I put this into?
I can put it below the video later.
Okay, or I can give it to you in the chat right now, though,
Okay.
right? And that is somewhere on here. There's something that will say chat. Let me see it. And then if I put it in there, then you can put it into the chat for them.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Let's see if this will do it. Check and see if that goes to me singing Samuel Barber and James Agee. I had a big beard, and it was around the holidays, and I was sitting in front of my bookshelf at the Laguna
That's a big
Hills
beard.
house.
That's a
the
big
one.
beard. Yeah, I can see that big beard.
And then we did one on cartooning, where I talked
Jeez,
about
that's
cartooning
huge.
books that meant to me. But yeah, there have been lots and lots of books, and there are ones even now that I'm involved in. But I have the problem of reading several books at a time, which is not my favorite way to do it. But it's just
Yeah, I've got the same problem. Yeah, Amazon makes that too easy, doesn't it?
yeah. But some books can really affect your life from now on, and even if they didn't, they're just like good meals.
Yeah.
What's this one? Hold on. Creativity Road to Self-Discovery by Edwin D. Sion, PhD.
Oh,
Looks like sci-fi novel.
that was not a book I recommend. That was here's one of the things that happens. I found out in doing that podcast that if you mention any book, including a book you didn't like, but you say, here's one that's had a large cultural influence, people read the book and say, you recommended that book. I didn't recommend that book. I just mentioned it. And Creativity Road to Self-Discovery was the first formal book that I ever read on creativity, the creative process, and which they talked about incubation, illumination, verification. I think it was saturation, incubation. It was the stages of creativity. And it was important to me. But there are much better. Oh, gosh, the book that Gabriel Lucerico wrote, the most practical book on creativity I know. We did a whole podcast on it, and it was it's called Writing the Natural Way, and I think they titled it can an artist learn to be creative from this book on writing or something like that? But it would be easy to find if you type in Draftsman, Proko, writing book, creativity, writing the natural way, it'll be on there. And that is a book that was hugely influential to me in my early 30s, I'd say, late 20s, early 30s.
Writing the Natural Way.
Writing the Natural Way by Gabriel Lucerico, but I can talk about it for an hour, but I already did. So if you go to that podcast, that would be a good way to be introduced to all of the nuances and the fact that it was published twice with revisions and so on. Those things are important. But I do think that it is the most practical book on creativity that I know of. But there are other great books on creativity, including some that have come out.
I really like the Art Spirit. I've read that one a couple times. That's one that just the mindset of how to look at the world through like an artist's eyes. That one's really great for that philosophy kind of ideas.
And kind of like a conduit.
Yeah. Like just learning to enjoy all those little things out there and how to put that into a painting.
Do you know it, Patrick? Do you know Robert Henry's The Art Spirit?
I don't know. I know of it. I know of it, and I'm going to get it because I want to. Like you said, Marshall, you haven't got the time to watch all those movies. I haven't got the time to read all those books unless someone recommends them, and that's been recommended, so I will get it. See you holding up little Nemo there. I got that big thing, so I'd like to see a big book and someone that I, value recommending a book, and then I can put that in time.
I'm not a fan of The Art Spirit. I read it years ago, and we were going to do a podcast on it. And I tried reading it again, and it doesn't connect with me. And I don't want to be critical of it because so many people have said how important it was to them.
Yeah.
And they're people that I respect, but I just could not get into the lack of a train of thought, which may be one of those Myers-Briggs, this guy's a J, he wants it to. And also the fact that it was little snippets of things he said in classes that people wrote down, and I'm wondering whether he would like it. But it has been very inspiring to people. I read almost all of the Dover reprints of books about art and artists.
Dover?
Yeah, Dover. People don't know about Dover Publications so much anymore, but that's something that is worth knowing about.
Yeah, the reproduction is not great, is it, Dover? But
well, some of them are great. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Dover,
yeah.
Dover was a New York, maybe even New Jersey. I can't remember, but they were a publishing house. They still exist. But every image that any human being ever made that got published before 1940, you could buy it for cheap through Dover Publications, mail order. Yeah. And I had thousands of Dover books. I bought because they were tax deductions, so I just had a whole room and boxes full of every Dover book that ever had images in it. And it was what you did before the internet. You bought books and made magazine files.
Yeah, that's my biggest text deduction as well. You know what, The Art Spirit? I want you to take out when you're doing the editing as well. When I said it's a podcast, the same as an audiobook, but of course it's not. This is what happens. After a while, some switches just turn off. I think I have The Art Spirit, and like you, Marshall, I think I've read it and put it down. And I have that with a couple of books that are really big in the world of these books need to be read by artists. And I'm not sure everyone does read them. They just go, I'll have that on the shelf. Vanderbilt, was it, or someone, The Human Figure? Something like that. I have a couple of books that are highly recommended, and maybe two chapters in, I go, it's too laborious. It's not grabbing me. No. Like there was a book by Stephen King on how to write, and I read it. Oh, isn't it? And I read it all the way through.
Yeah,
I read it all the way through.
Twice through. I thought it was wonderful.
It's amazing.
Melanie and Rachel, did you both read The Art Spirit?
Yeah, I've read it.
I flipped through it. I had a similar issue.
But the thing that I'm getting from what you liked about it was that it inspires you to look at the world.
Yeah, like he talks about I remember like very vividly, like just the mark he put on someone's face. It could just be a mark to be on someone's face, or it's like a flourish of, you know, whatever kind of emotion or feeling you want to put into that. And then you just, so you look really closely at his Robert Henri's paintings, and they just kind of look like a mess of brushstrokes. You back up, and then you see like a full portrait. And it's, I guess, like, just figuring out how his mind gets to these conclusions of every little mark like that. Maybe that's what I found interesting about it. I need to read more of these other books, though, now. Like, I feel like I haven't been reading enough art books. Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking about, like, other... My mind's going all over the place right now.
And reading books is as great as it is. For some great achievers, it may be overrated.
Reading books? What are you talking about?
I mean, there are some. This is the bombshell.
Yeah, reading books to them. I have known some people who are really great at what they do, and they're just not into books. They're rarer than those who achieve and they have important books to them. But and I have a friend who is highly accomplished, who has eye issues to where he just was he's not a reader. He doesn't like to read. It's too physically painful. It doesn't get in the way of him being a bright mind and a high achiever in the arts.
Yeah, and that's a strange thing about the mind as well, because I'm looking into it all the time now. I wonder if he has aphantasia. And the first time I ever heard of someone telling me that when they read a book, all they read is the words, they don't see the images.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that. I didn't. I thought we all had the same mind, where you always see an image of what you read. Maybe he has that. So imagine how hard it would be to read a book if all you read is the words, and you never see a single image as you read. That would be impossible, wouldn't it? That would be a real dirge.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's it.
I didn't know about aphantasia until we did our podcast, and people started to volunteer that I have aphantasia. Does everybody here know what we're talking about?
Yeah.
The inability
like
to envision.
Can't like if I say like the word cat, you know, like you picture how vividly you're able to picture a cat, I guess, or something. Like I don't really know. Everyone's mind, I guess, does work differently. But it seems like a lot of people have issues with that. Like to me, the way, because Jeff Watts was one that I was like, what, he was talking about like not having that ability.
So we get it right, because I interviewed him, and he did say he had it, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah. He told us some crazy stories about times where he should have had visual experiences and did not. And I was just like, how, and then, so like, when you're dreaming though, are you still like picturing things in your dreams if you have this? Like, are they vivid like that? Like, are there just no pictures in your dreams? Like, I don't understand the aphantasia.
Marshall, did you say you have it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely not. I'm closer to William Blake, who was constantly having visions. Now let's Proko did a video by an artist, produced a video by an artist who has aphantasia talking about it. So if you type in Proko aphantasia, how to draw it with aphantasia, you might find something that would be useful if you're struggling with that. It's hard for me to imagine it, because when I imagine it in pictures.
Yeah.
Imagine. For some reason, I thought, what's it like to go to the supermarket and get a tin of beans? Because how can you remember what a tin of beans is? You'll need to just look at the words all the time, and they don't say tins of beans this way. How do they leave breadcrumbs? How do you do that? I just can't imagine what that's like, not to be able to visualize.
Yeah, I think I'm on the other end of that spectrum, whatever that is. Like, if there's another the other end of that, but it's like over visualizing.
You
things.
See something spinning around, like look at the bottom.
Yeah, like overactive almost. you're like yeah, like whatever ideas you got, we can figure it out, and then that inspires you to want to draw more. How do I get these ideas out of my head? So yeah, like I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Well, Patrick, I think you could learn from Melanie and Rachel that if you have a hard time imagining what it would be to have aphantasia, we need to work on your imagination. You have to vividly imagine what it's like.
Yeah.
Well, I have thought about it. I thought to myself, my little doggies here, And I think, can he visualize? Can she visualize? And I think she can, because if I'm in the garden and she comes out and sees me, she has to go down the stairs all the way around and get to where I am. So she must have visualized that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
we're going to have to
bizarre.
let the people with aphantasia speak for themselves. We
Yeah.
We
are
should
a
have
bunch
them
of
back
I
on.
feel like
We
I
let
should go
that
grocery shopping.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
let
I
we
have a
let that go
hunch.
too quickly. Yeah, that was such a fascinating
Yeah.
thing to let go with Jeff. But Jeff talks so fast, I just got to let him speak, because
Oh
he
yeah.
was so fascinated. But I wonder if that helps him draw. Nobody draws as fast as he does. I wonder if that helps him draw because he's unencumbered by anything other than what he sees right in front of him. I wonder if that's why he can draw so fast
Yeah.
and so easily because he's got nothing else. I mean, I'm thinking of 1,000 things all the time. I can't stop this noise. It's always coming at me. Whereas I feel that maybe that is a superpower, his advantage. I don't know.
Maybe it
We
works
need to get
for
him back.
him, whatever he's doing.
Yeah,
He's managed to make it work for him. So that's
yeah.
Yeah, we have a few questions
go
from
ahead.
the YouTube.
Yeah, well, we're an hour and 15 minutes in, and we've had one question that we've answered.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
hope yeah.
Yeah, so
Let's
they're
go.
they're
We'll
they're
wrap
more
it up. We'll wrap it
specific
up in
about.
10.
All right, yeah, they're more specific about your course, Marshall. So, does your
Yes.
perspective course touch on composition, or is that a completely different discipline?
Well, I would not say it is a completely different discipline because everything overlaps, but it is a completely different discipline. Perspective, at its core, is a scientifically devised way to create an illusion. And it does not, in itself, give any wisdom for how to use it or whether to use it. Great composers know I don't want to use perspective at this part. I want to flatten the perspective here. I want to treat this where I'm only using overlap. This one I want deep space. This one I want deep space or exaggerated view here and not there. And form and space are two significant components of composition. So perspective is a tool. And there is an argument you can make that you don't need it, but I don't make that argument because I think it's one of the great neglected disciplines, just like anatomy. There are people who were figure artists and figure designers that didn't know anatomy, and they did some remarkable work because they could graphikize it well, but they can't do the thing that a person who knows anatomy can do, and they have limited their options. So all technical skills are up for judgment, and the proof of it is that two of the most successful songwriters in the history of the human race, Irving Berlin and Paul McCartney, did not know music theory, did not know how to
Yeah.
read and write music. They were incompetent when it came to basic technical skills about music. Didn't make any difference. They were great at composing ideas. So if we put it into perspective, I mean figuratively, perspective is how to create the illusion of 3 dimensions on a 2-dimensional surface. And it's exciting. And
Yeah.
I'm excited about the course. We've finished the first half of the course, and I feel like I can't do it better than that. I mean, give me another 10 years, but I can't make it more useful to you if you're scared of perspective for making it easy. And I tried to make it so that if you're a perspective master, you will still enjoy the course. But it is different from what composition is about. Perspective is about knowledge and practical knowledge. Composition is about wisdom. It's about making good decisions because you've got a vision, you've got an idea for the feeling you want this picture to give, you've got ideas for how you can do it with making it dark or light, or making it bright or dull, or making it thick or flat, or making it small in parts, or making it overstated or understated, and all of the creative stuff. Composition is inherently creative because it's about choices, including the choice of whether to use perspective and how to use perspective.
And I think where your perspective course stands out way head and shoulders above any other perspective course is it's entertaining,
Yes.
which is a hard thing to do with perspective. It's incredibly entertaining. So I would recommend that course for that reason, where you might be frightened of, perspective is a scary word. It's so entertaining. It's so
Yeah.
fun to do.
Well, Thank you. Should I give you another link to?
Do the
I,
link.
I already
We'll
have
also
it
have it.
linked.
We'll have it in the description.
I think I already
No.
have that one linked, actually. If not, I'll make sure it's linked below the video.
I want to make a specific
Yeah.
link.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah.
why.
It's linked.
Because in case I come off as a crass salesperson who's just trying to make a buck, I want to encourage, Stan may kill me for this, I want to encourage you to just do the free version. We tried to make the perspective course as useful as possible to the person who cannot afford the perspective course. And so pretty much all of the information is there in the free videos.
Wow.
And I am sending you the link that will
Here
have
it is.
at the upper right corner of that link will be the YouTube playlist of the 12 free lessons that we have done in order, starting with the one with the treasure chest, which is the first lesson. Watch the first lesson. It's not going to teach you about perspective, but it's going to teach you about why perspective is useful or not useful. The second one is about the tools. The third one is about the 5 tricks of how historically people create the illusion of three-dimensionality on the surface. The fourth and fifth ones start to get into the great secret of mastering perspective is not to master all of the technical instrumental stuff like architects did. It is to learn basic forms and be able to get free with them. And then we start to get into real lessons about how to do that. So I am proud of what we've done so far, but I've got a year and a half of intense study. In fact, part of the reason I have not been able to meet with you on your live stream and in your podcast is that I'm scared of
Oh,
not meeting my deadlines for the next year and a half because we have got thousands of hours to try to do part 2 and try to keep it up to the level of part 1.
Wow.
So if you buy the course, buy part 1, because then you're pretty assured.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
course.
Marshall is done with that. It's recorded.
That
What an
course
opus.
is great. It's very, very, very good. I like I told you before, is like I went my entire life up until a year ago without really learning perspective, and I got pretty far because I don't enjoy it and it's boring to me. But you have made it so even people like me that are stubborn and don't enjoy it can enjoy it and learn from it. And I've gotten a lot out of it. Like the 5-point perspective video was the one where it just like. My little brain just exploded.
that's a mind meld. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like just
when
picturing
you
the
see
world
it-
like that.
Yeah, but when you see great artists use it like Winsor McKay, you see how amazing it can be. I mean, it's an astonishing tool to have in your arsenal. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we got
Okay,
more
well,
questions, or you
Oh,
want
have you?
to how
I was about to wrap it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, if
go
I
ahead.
could ask this one more question.
Okay, one more.
Yeah. So it's kind of a long one, so please bear with me. Can I ask a follow-up question about your view on habits as it pertains to creating? I've read that you should form habits to continue to create even if you are not feeling like it in order to keep momentum. But I've also read that procrastination is useful because your mind may need time to process what you have
That's
been
true.
learning, and it may
Yeah.
be counterproductive to overload your mind. What is your opinion?
I like that
do
second
you,
part.
do you take breaks from creating in order to process, or do you think it's better to keep creating?
Ah,
I've had one quote that went viral. It was about 2014. I made the statement in the presence of students. One of my students, Carson Slater, wrote it down, posted it, and then famous authors tweeted it. And if you type in Marshall Vandruff dormancy into Google, you'll get it. And in fact, go ahead and do it and read it, because I've revised it since, but let's go for the one that was out there. And it's something that I observed, and I was trying to help students who were coming up against creative blocks. Creative
Are you
blocks
doing-
is an issue. Go if you can just read it.
Yeah, what
You
did
done
you
that?
say?
It starts with
She's got
You
it.
got
It starts with one reason.
okay.
One reason that people have artist block. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Okay. One reason that people have artist block is that they do not respect the law of dormancy in nature. Trees don't produce fruit all year long constantly. Oh God, sorry, there's an ad. They have a point where they go dormant, And when you are in a dormant period creatively, if you can arrange your life to do the technical tasks that don't take creativity, you are essentially preparing for the spring when it will all blossom again.
That's an awesome quote.
It is. That's great. I totally endorse that quote. It's fantastic. And that'll stop the burnout. Burnout is what I don't know if you've seen it too, Marshall, but most of the people that I grew up with in art studios burned themselves out. They just totally burnt themselves out. And they could have had a long, long career because they didn't embrace the dormancy. They didn't stop until they were forced to. And they just were burnt cinders. I totally endorse that. You gotta stop every once in a while and smell the roses. You have to.
Yeah, like maybe another hobby, pick up whatever it might be, gardening or building some yeah.
Spend some time with your family.
Yeah.
We're going to
Spending
do
time
it
with the
again.
family. It's
We're
a
going to
We'll
go
do it
here.
again.
There is a chapter somewhere here on burnout, and it is the scientific research that shows that burnout has specific stages and warning signs. It's a frightening chapter. And I guess the shortest I mean, it's been 6 years since I lived in this book, lived in this PDF of the course. But the main thing I remember is that it's just release valves. That if it's a machine can get hot, but it can't keep getting hot, and if there's a rhythm of pulling back, and that rhythm is a natural rhythm, that is one way to solve to avoid the issue of burnout.
Isn't that funny that your lawnmower is probably smarter than you sometimes because it has an automatic cutoff when it gets too hot and it just stops working. And you got to leave the lawnmower for a while so that it can work again, And you get used to that. One thought that came through my mind before we end the podcast earlier there, Marshall, when you talked about Paul McCartney, I saw a fascinating small documentary about because they couldn't read music, none of the Beatles could read or write music.
Yeah.
And the reason why their music was so dynamic was one of the reasons, and fresh, was because they had to get it down on tape because they couldn't write the music before they forgot it. So they had to get it done. So they didn't have time to tweak it into the point where it was dull. It was always almost like a live performance every time because they would forget it if they didn't. Isn't that a lesson for us all, I think?
Yes, and even before he had access to a tape recorder, he talked about that when he was on the bus, I think, or that he'd have an idea and he had to remember the idea. There was no taping it, there was no writing it down.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting when you see people who have limitations, who've gone beyond what everybody else goes that didn't have the limitations. That it's like that deliberate practice where you give yourself a deliberate handicap to strengthen yourself.
Yeah.
We didn't finish. We didn't finish with what I want to at least
Okay.
give a little more of an overview. Are you seeing the screen?
Yeah, we got it.
Do it, Marshall. Do it. Go for it, Marshall.
How much time do we have?
As much time as you want, Marshall. As much time as you want.
Okay.
Maybe in
Well,
like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, another 30,
Okay, yeah.
30 minutes. Melanie
Yeah,
has
yeah,
to wake
that's
up
right.
very early tomorrow.
It's getting late. Okay.
Rachel,
We talked about part one.
Yeah, go ahead.
The 5 master keys to find a teacher, to do deliberate practice, to be willing to do. When you found a good teacher, be willing to surrender, but don't surrender too much. It's not, your teacher shouldn't be your guru, or you're not their disciple, but you are going to learn from them. Intentionality was a good one about attitude, and the edge, that is that sometimes you do push so hard that you could hurt yourself, sometimes in a controlled environment. Those are 5 master keys. And I do want to mention something. The instruction one has meant a lot to me, even just reading it this past week, because I feel like the fact that I absorbed this book 3 times years ago kept me from being a worse teacher. There is an attitude of the teacher that whether one way you can know a teacher is a hacker
Yeah.
is that if they feel shown up by other people who are better, and they don't want you to be exposed to the pros because then you know your teacher isn't that good. That's one way I knew I wasn't a hacker, is that I always wanted to be around people who did better work than me. And a teacher's attitude is the teacher who takes delight when their students surpass them, made me beam with pride.
Sure.
Because my students, I mean, across the board, have gotten so much better than me that it's part of why, with no degree, I didn't have an associate arts degree from the junior college. I never got a bachelor's degree. I never got a master's degree. I never had that much interest in it. I never had any interest in it, really. But I wasn't planning to be a teacher. Teaching, the title of teacher was put on me by students who got so good and so far excelled me. And I am most impressed with what my students, past, current, and future, can do that I can't. This next bit about practice and surrender and intentionality and the edge is to the student. But there was one thing in instruction, he might have brought it in later, is as a student, you are responsible for choosing a teacher well. That you don't have to study with any particular teacher, and you can pick the teacher who's popular, or you can pick the teacher who's great at their craft but doesn't explain it well, or you are responsible ultimately to know when to pull away from a teacher because it doesn't fit anymore. And that is that's the first of the master keys, is that to be a master, you do need instruction, but you can also get bad instruction, and you can also get instruction that isn't bad, but it's just useless for you. You don't need this. Another person needs that. That's the 5 great big abstract things. I want to pause in case there's any thoughts from the 3 of you.
I just enjoy listening to what you got here. Like, what do you mean by surrendering too much in the guru thing, I guess, was like the one thing that I was confused by.
I think the surrender is the most important of those 3 from my thought as well,
Yeah.
before Marshall gives his thought.
Yeah, but then you're surrendering yourself to like a cult or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's
Oh,
my
no,
first
not that
thought.
kind of surrender. Not that kind of surrender.
Okay, so when I think
No,
of guru and that kind of thing, that's where my mind goes at the moment, at least.
no, it's the metacognitive thing where you're questioning your own thoughts. You know, when you're surrendering to something, like I'll tell you what, Boris Vallejo said it to me once. He's such a great painter, and I was talking about technique, and he says you just got to let the painting do what it wants sometimes, right? And so for a second I had to think, what is he talking about? Let the painting do what it wants. And then I realized what it was. I was too tight with my painting, and just let it go. Don't surrender to the fact that it's going to be okay by the end of it. So there's one kind of surrender. Just surrender to the technique not being the boss of you. Let it go. So I was too tight with technique. But for me, the surrender is the fact that I'll always surrender to the fact that I don't know everything. So I have to surrender to the fact that I'm always an eternal student. And I think that's the most important thing. If you're not an eternal student, you'll always get worse. And I walked into a classroom after another teacher, going back on what Marshall said. I walked into a classroom with a very egotistical teacher just left, and they had a whiteboard of anatomical drawings, and they were wrong. They were totally awful. So they had just coasted on their greatness to the point where it degraded and degraded like a photocopier, degraded right down to the point where they were just wrote, putting this stuff down that was getting worse and worse and worse all the way through. They had stopped, they hadn't surrendered to the fact that there was more to learn. They were the hacker. The hacker was what they had become. So I think surrender is the most important part of all of that. Marshall, what do you think? What would you, if you had one of those disciplines?
Well, you mentioned that you didn't have any trouble with surrender.
No trouble at all.
I obviously had trouble with instruction because I was a hungry student at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I couldn't find people. I couldn't find a teacher there were 3 things that I wanted to know. I wanted to know about storytelling. I wanted to know about how to put scenes together and make it visual. I mean, as a storyteller, not necessarily as an artist. And I also want to know classic drafting and painting skills. And I just couldn't find anybody to teach it. I could find people who would do it and they were terrible teachers. And I could find people who were good teachers, but acknowledged their ignorance. They had no idea how comic book artists do that. So I really had trouble finding an instructor. And it took me until I was 27, 28, 10 years to find instructors in those three things. And that's part of why I've become a teacher. I think like if I had a good instruction early on, I wouldn't have felt that raging hunger to just please somebody teach me what I need to know. And I felt it so long that it's sort of like, okay, well, you can take on that role. Right now, my most enjoyable work is with students who have such talent that I am confident they are going to have better careers than I did. It's great to see what they're doing.
Marshall, that resonates with me so much. And that was exactly why I started writing books, because I couldn't find the teacher that needed to teach me this stuff. And by that point, I'd learned so much that I thought, write it down and teach it. And then that's the beginning of that. But the great thing I think for Melanie and Rachel is that we had a terrible time. We had to walk out onto hot pavements and walk down streets and try and find people in a world that was gigantic. But now you've got the internet, and you've got Proco, and you've got Marshall, and you've got just all these great teachers, and you can cherry pick. You can go, wow, wow, in an instant.
Yeah.
Whereas it took us decades. It took me decades before I wrote that book out of sheer frustration, because I, like Marshall, could not find that teacher. And they hid things too. A lot of stuff was hidden, but they wouldn't show the technique. Most art technique books were just a showcase for art, where they left out the important stuff. You couldn't see how they did it. It was a quick sketch and then a painting. Mm-hmm. Like that joke, how to draw a horse, a circle and then finish the horse. You know, it was like that. Yeah, right. Oh, that's what art instruction books were. Sorry, I hogged the whole thing there. Back to Marshall.
If you're a student and you care about this early on, let me tell you why you wouldn't want me as a teacher. Because I will put this on you. Each one of these keys, which each one of them is important, each one of them has a dark side. There are people who are seeking instructors, and that's all they do. They want to be taught and taught and taught and taught, and there's nothing wrong with it if you're enjoying it, but it's never going to lead you to mastery. There are people who are so into practice that they never produce. There are people who are willing to surrender and become disciples of a guru. Intentionality I don't know how that can be overdone, but I'm sure there's a way. The edge, I've had some students that are so bent on innovating that they never learn the fundamentals. So each one of these has its potential lean so far to that side, and you start to become imbalanced. And this next part, tools for mastery, why resolutions fail and what to do about it. Here, George Leonard is doing the thing I'm talking about. Resolutions are good. Resolutions fail. I think the first thing he said about what to do about it is to acknowledge it. To say, yeah, there's a problem here, that this didn't work and that I fell. And getting energy for mastery, pitfalls along the path, very good. Taking the negative side, one of his maxims is acknowledge the negative, but accentuate the positive. Do not pretend that there's not a dark side to everything that we believe, do, etc. But that if we acknowledge it, then we see it as a pitfall. The pitfall is something we don't want to fall into, but pitfalls are inevitable. Mastering the commonplace, very inspiring. He has a thing in there about vacuuming your carpet if you have a carpet, and a thing in there about driving.
I like that.
I read it last. Oh, isn't it exciting? And it makes you feel like, I don't like driving, but if you really take driving seriously, and before you start driving, you center yourself, become aware that I'm doing something that is a life and death thing, and that I want to pay attention to what I'm doing, and seeing it as a highly advanced thing, then the commonplace washing dishes can be something that is really quite exhilaratingly, you become aware, I'm doing something marvelous. Packing for the Journey, and I think we talked about The Master and the Fool. Okay, we've spent plenty of time on this. I would recommend this book with caveats. One is that it is a book from a previous generation, but it's not a big caveat. This is a valuable book. I still reckon there are good chunks of gold in this treasure chest if you are interested in what the claim is in the subtitle.
Yeah, and it's a small book. I remember reading it under a tree and finished it. I remember just sitting and the sun hadn't gone down yet, so it's an easy read. Yeah. But on one thing though, Marshall, I just bought a robot vacuum cleaner. Should I throw it in the trash?
Oh, yeah, you are just ruining your ability to master the commonplace by letting that machine do it. You are typical of what's going on in this country, the war against mastery. It's happening in Australia too. It's happening everywhere.
You sound like George.
But I've grown to love the machine now.
I'm trying to put a guilt trip on you for that robot. Hey, by the way, is your robot vacuum good? Does it work?
Yes, I've grown to love it because I've personalized it. I've given it a name. I shouldn't have given it a name. That's the thing.
What's his name?
Brenda. I can't throw Brenda in the trash because it's a person to me now.
Well, he's appreciating it. Yeah, he's mastering the commonplace. The commonplace is his robot vacuum cleaner.
The master. It knows exactly what it's done already. I followed it and it picked up every crumb it missed.
That's your instructor, Brenda.
Yeah.
Did I lose my ability to share? To stop the share? Where are we?
I see just the three of us now, or the four of us.
I'm not. I've got to get out of Keynote, I think. Okay, now I see this. Okay. Did I stop sharing?
Yes.
Okay, yes. I did stop sharing. Okay. Were there unanswered questions that people feel passionate about that we should acknowledge?
A lot of really nice comments of how you've helped people understand Bridgman.
Oh, I'm proud of. Okay, I've got to go to that.
There we go.
I'm going to go back to that one. This is my last pitch.
Okay. Everything you create is perfect and amazing and well thought out.
Pitch it like Barnum and Bailey.
Okay, I want to. Somebody mentioned the Bridgman course. My Bridgman course is a well-kept secret in one way. But let me tell you, if you go to my website,
I took it. Marshall, I took it.
You went through it?
I did. I took it. I took it when it came out. It was fantastic.
You were actually in there when we were doing it live?
Yes.
And that was like 2020. I think it was summer of 2020.
It was quite a way ago, yeah.
Okay. Well, we made it. We did it as a live course. You had to buy it as a live course, and then when you're going to buy it as a recorded course. But if you go to my website, marshallart.com, and you go to Bridgman videos, it will have a link to YouTube where you can get the whole 12 weeks for free. Wow. And I feel good about what we got onto video because I feel that a person's called Bridgman 1.0, and it is for beginners. If you care about understanding Bridgman, I tell all the story about how I couldn't understand Bridgman, and I will do my best in about whatever it is, 18 hours of videos that you don't have to pay for. If you want to pay for it, you can go to Gumroad and pay me whatever it was, $28 or $32 or something.
It was so reasonable. It was such a reasonable price. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And then my $12 Perspective 1994 course, which has been the most popular thing I've ever done, $12. It was lectures in front of in a college classroom. Justin Sweet and Vance Kovacs were sitting on the front row, and you can even see them in it. Yeah, that was back in I can't believe it was 31 years ago.
The hairstyles must have been amazing.
Oh yeah, well I almost had hair back then. This $8 course on whiteboard is called Design Your Career with a Whiteboard. Again, it's 1 hour. But I have had more people come up to me at conventions and tell me how pivotal it was in their life because it was meant to be pivotal in your life. It's meant that if you want a career in the arts, if you want a career at all, having a whiteboard and graphicizing, getting in front of you what your skills are, what your loves are, what your colleagues are, I recommend it if you're willing to spend $8 on me. And then if you want to be a storyteller, this was a projectcity.tv thing. I did it in July 2023. 1 month I spent getting completely devoted to these hour and a half a week or whatever it was, hour per week, on true to the claim. If you want to be a storyteller, look to your life, mine your life, use your family, make fun of your friends. Understand that you have a unique view on trailer parks if you were raised in one, big cities if you were raised in one, a farm if you were raised in one, that miniature donkey farms or whatever it is are a part of your. If you spend 1 month with this, whatever it was, $18 course, taking it seriously, you will be looking to your life to get the richest and most unique resources. And I would start as a storyteller. If you were a 12-year-old I want to be a professional storyteller, I would start you here. And then when you want something more advanced, I would go to the storytelling lessons from masters, in this case, 4 episodes of The Simpsons that are masterpieces of storytelling. And that's the best I can do for boiling it down. And then the Heinrich Kley course would follow up with the Bridgman. Bridgman should be first, then Heinrich Kley. But that's my pitch for all of my product. And I mentioned it because somebody happened to say that they liked the Bridgman course. Go there. Okay.
Yeah. The Heinrich Kley, I'm interested in Heinrich Kley because I've got one of his books here. A forgotten master, just an incredible artist. And Marshall, also on your whiteboard course, that should be taught in every school. I teach at university here, and I don't have a master's degree, by the way. It's because I was published. I teach in university down here, and every classroom I go into, I've finally got white man privilege, which I never had before because I grew up in the slums. And I go into that class, and if there's no whiteboard there, I'm straight on the phone, whiteboard.
Yeah.
They don't put them in classrooms anymore.
Yeah.
I can't work without a whiteboard. They says, you've got a projector. I said, whiteboard. I need a whiteboard. And they wheel it down for me. This crusty bunker guy wants a whiteboard. We don't know why. The kids love it. They come in. It's always on. You don't have to turn it on. It's always there. What you need to do, and all the questions are answered. Whiteboard's amazing. I have one right here on my left. Get yourself a whiteboard, everyone.
And it goes back to Gabriel Lucerico's book, Writing the Natural Way, is that putting the thought is so ethereal. Thought is all over the place.
Yeah.
It's hard to grip thought. As soon as you put it down onto paper, or in the case of vertical surface on whiteboard, you have begun. In fact, Stephen Sondheim said, for all of his genius, the most important thing is to get something down on paper. To get something down. Why?
100%.
Because if you've got talent, you're going to look at it and say, that isn't very good. And then you're going to have opinions about how it isn't good and how it could be better. And then you are on. You are now hooked, so that if you've got the talent and the tenacity to carry through with it, just get something down, even if it's bad, and then start to interact with it. So yes, a whiteboard, that's one thing that a whiteboard or paper does. And then Gabriel Rico's thing about putting bubbles around things to see how they relate, and then revising and revising until you get an elegant visual design. The elegant visual design is usually the result of having an elegant relationship of thoughts to each other. But we're getting
learning how to learn again is a good way to end this as well, Marshall. Because when you said you already, when that person said to you, you've read Mastery, and you hadn't, because you're a thinker, and I felt I had a kinship with that book because I had those thoughts, but they weren't concrete yet. I think I mentioned before, last time we talked about an album called Love, Devotion, and Surrender. And it was just those 3 words together that I placed in my hand and went, this is what I do. I love the practice. I'm devoted to it, and I'll surrender to anything else I don't know yet. And I already had that. And I still don't know what the album title meant because there was no spoken word in it. But I played that album over and over, and that's when I got the mastery, and I went, hold on, this speaks like the same thing. And there it was, all written down. So to end this podcast, which has been fantastic with Marshall in the room, I knew it would be, read Mastery and get yourself a whiteboard and subscribe to all of Marshall's courses, and you can't go wrong. This is what we didn't have, Marshall. We didn't have this when we were growing up, and it's all here available. All right. So
Good.
we'll end the pause. Thanks so much, Marshall, for coming in. It's been
Thank
an
you.
absolute privilege. And for Rachel and Melanie. And I forgot to say, Marshall, we also have a goodbye. And I come from Ireland, so it's a sláinte from me, which means great health. From the Virginians.
See y'all next time.
Well, I
See y'all
actually
next
have
time.
another one.
Oh.
today,
Oh, well, let's
if
hear it.
that's-
Yeah.
Have you heard "See You Later, Alligator"?
Well, I remember the song.
I like that one way better.
"See You Later, Alligator."
Yeah.
You gonna
It
use
might
that?
be too many words.
No, it's
But
good.
we have to
It's
say
good.
it in unison.
It's got a rhythm. It's a mnemonic. It's a rhythm. You'll remember it forever. Marshall, I've got you on the hook. Is there anything, a goodbye that you use in
Well,
your part of
there's
the world?
one that I picked up from my colleague of almost 50 years now. She every time we did a call, she said, "Okay, talk to you," and I picked it up. Yeah, okay, talk to you. It's the assumption we're going to talk again. Yeah,
I love that. It's open-ended. It's not a goodbye. It's not an end.
Yeah,
It's
right.
this is a continuing thing.
yeah,
We'll meet again. Don't know where. Don't know when.
yeah. Vera,
But I know we'll meet again. That's
Okay.
great. All right. Should we do it all so that it's a continuous loop? Sláinte.
Okay, good seeing you.
See you later,
Alligator.
alligator.